Rowan Sebastian Atkinson was born on January 6, 1955, in Consett, a small town in County Durham, England. He was the youngest of 4 boys, though tragedy struck the family before Rowan was old enough to remember it. His eldest brother Paul died in infancy, leaving just 3 brothers. One of those brothers, Rodney, went on to become an economist and came close to leading the UK Independence Party in 2000. Growing up on a farm, Rowan lived a quiet, disciplined life, a stark contrast to the loud, ridiculous characters that would one day make him world famous. Around the age of 5, Rowan developed a serious stutter. Getting words out smoothly was a daily struggle, and school became a battleground. At Durham Chorister School, the bullying was relentless. A canon who worked there remembered Rowan as a shy boy with a rubbery face and a speech problem. Some classmates went so far as to say he looked like an alien, mocking both the way he talked and the way he looked. Rowan spent most of his time alone. Among his schoolmates was a boy 2 years his junior named Tony Blair, who would later become Prime Minister, and who remembered just how tough things were for Rowan during those years. The bullying was severe enough to be referenced in a 2007 article in The Independent. But something remarkable happened whenever Rowan stepped onto a stage. His stutter vanished completely. The moment he became a character, the words flowed freely. That painful quirk of his childhood, the very thing that made him a target, turned out to be the key that unlocked his extraordinary gift for performance. Despite his difficulties, Rowan excelled academically. He earned top grades in his science A-levels and won a place at Newcastle University in 1973, where he studied electrical and electronic engineering. He graduated in 1975 at just 20 years old. Following in his father's footsteps, he then went to Queen's College, Oxford, to pursue a master's degree, with his research focusing on the highly complex field of self-tuning control systems. He even began a PhD, though he never finished it. Something else was pulling him in a different direction entirely. His engineering tutor, Chris Robson, later recalled that Rowan never stood out particularly in the classroom, but the moment he stepped onto a stage, he became a completely different person. That transformation began in earnest when Rowan joined Oxford's drama club and a review group called the Etc. It was there, in 1975, that he met a young writer named Richard Curtis. When Curtis watched Rowan perform for the first time at a rehearsal in early 1976, he was stunned. Rowan did a sketch about driving and mimed while speaking simultaneously. Curtis called it pure genius. That partnership would go on to shape both of their careers. In August 1976, Rowan performed with the Oxford Review at the Edinburgh Festival Fringe, his first time in front of a major national audience. The show was a success, and his path suddenly became clear. He was no longer just an engineer in training. He was a performer. His technical degree was not wasted, however. Years later, he became one of the first celebrities to purchase an electric car, buying his first hybrid 18 years before 2023, and his first fully electric car 9 years before that. His engineering background also gave him the knowledge to speak critically and in detail about electric vehicle technology and environmental claims. By the late 1970s, Rowan was pushing hard to break into professional comedy. In 1979, he created a radio show called The Atkinson People for BBC Radio 3, playing a range of fictional characters with Curtis helping to write and Griff Rhys-Jones producing. Though critics recognized his talent, the show aired in a slot not designed for comedy and attracted few listeners. Around the same time, the BBC rejected him repeatedly. They simply did not understand what he was doing. His stutter, which had always disappeared on stage, worsened during auditions and interviews, making every rejection harder to bear. There were moments when he seriously considered abandoning comedy altogether and returning to engineering. Then came a crucial realization. When he inhabited a character completely, his stutter disappeared. He did not need to speak perfectly as himself. The characters would do the talking for him. That discovery gave him a new kind of power and confidence. He kept working with friends like Angus Deaton, whom he had met at Oxford, developing his craft away from the pressure of television cameras. His breakthrough arrived in 1979 when the BBC gave him a spot on a new sketch comedy program called Not the 9 O'Clock News. The first episode aired on October 16, 1979, to a dismal response, fewer than 1 million viewers, hostile critics, and co-star Mel Smith himself calling it the worst half hour of television he had ever seen. Yet the BBC controller saw something in it and immediately ordered another series. That single decision saved the show and turned it into one of the most important British comedy programs ever made. Rowan worked alongside Pamela Stephenson, Mel Smith, and Griff Rhys-Jones, and all four became stars. Behind the scenes, it was not always harmonious. When cast member Chris Langham was fired after the first series, Rowan fought hard to keep him, showing a fierce loyalty that went unheeded. Budget cuts forced the show to abandon location filming and scale back its ambitions, which the cast cheekily acknowledged in an episode titled The Outrageously Expensive, Not the 9 O'Clock News. One sketch, however, became legendary. In a piece called Gerald the Gorilla, Rowan played an ape who turned out to be far smarter and angrier than the professor who claimed to have trained him. The line "Wild, I was absolutely livid," became famous overnight. The sketch was so beloved that scientists began jokingly referring to groups of baboons as a flange, just as the sketch had done. The show went on to win the Silver Rose at the Montrose Festival in 1982 and a BAFTA for Best Light Entertainment Program. By 1982, however, the cast had reached a breaking point. The pace, the pressure, the relentless workload, it had all become too much. Rowan, who had long battled anxiety, was particularly worn down. Rather than continuing for the sake of money or fame, they walked away at the height of their success. It was a decision that showed, even then, how much Rowan valued his mental health and artistic integrity over commercial reward. He moved straight into his next major project. On June 15, 1983, the Blackadder launched. Co-created with Richard Curtis, the show imagined an alternate history in which Richard III had won the Battle of Bosworth Field. Rowan played Prince Edmund, a sneaky and power-hungry royal. The production was ambitious and expensive, filmed at Alnwick Castle with huge sets and period costumes, and was even partly funded by Australia's Seven Network. But costs spiraled, rain ruined shoots, and reviews were lukewarm. The show nearly died after its first series. What saved it was an international Emmy, which gave the BBC enough confidence to try again, this time with strict financial limits. No more castles. No more sprawling casts. The next series would be leaner, sharper, and better. Blackadder 2 premiered in 1986 with Ben Elton joining as co-writer. The show was transformed. Miranda Richardson played a memorably unhinged Queen Elizabeth. Guest stars like Tom Baker left lasting impressions, and Rowan's Edmund became the sarcastic, scheming center of every episode. The character of Baldric, once relatively sharp, evolved into the lovable, dim-witted companion that audiences adored. The creative gamble paid off enormously. The final series, Blackadder Goes Forth, set in the trenches of World War I and airing in 1989, became something no one quite anticipated, a comedy that was also genuinely moving. Its closing scene, in which the soldiers walk slowly into no man's land, remains one of the most emotionally powerful endings in television history. The show won Best Comedy Series at the 1990 BAFTAs. In 2004, it was voted second in the BBC's poll for Britain's Best Sitcom, receiving over 282,000 votes. Then came Mr. Bean. Rowan had conceived the character years earlier at Oxford, a childlike, near-silent man stumbling through everyday situations. The first episode aired on January 1, 1990, and was watched by 13.45 million people. Because the character barely spoke, the comedy translated instantly across languages and cultures. The show was eventually sold to 245 countries. One episode, The Trouble with Mr. Bean, attracted 18.74 million viewers. By any measure, it was a phenomenon. Yet behind every episode was a man who was quietly suffering. Rowan has spoken openly about not enjoying the role. Playing Mr. Bean was exhausting and emotionally draining. Expressing everything through physical movement and facial expression, with almost no dialogue to rely on, took a relentless toll. What the world saw as effortless slapstick was, for Rowan, a painful and grueling performance. The 1997 film Bean made over $251 million worldwide and broke UK opening records, but its success only deepened the pressure on him. In 2002, he found partial relief through an animated Mr. Bean series, which required only voice work and ran until 2004, keeping the character alive without the physical demands. His final major live performance as Mr. Bean came during the 2012 London Olympics opening ceremony, where 900 million people around the world watched him perform. It left him drained for weeks. Away from his two most famous roles, Rowan continued to surprise. A small role as a fumbling priest in Four Weddings and a Funeral in 1994 became instantly iconic. That same year, he reluctantly agreed to voice Zazu in The Lion King, a film that went on to earn $968.5 million globally and become Disney's highest-grossing hand-drawn film. He declined to return for the 2019 remake, and fans noticed his absence. In 2003, he starred in Johnny English, a spy comedy that made $160 million worldwide and spawned two sequels, with a third installment in 2018, drawing on Rowan's genuine engineering knowledge to add credibility to its digital surveillance storyline. In his personal life, Rowan met Sinatra Sastry in the late 1980s while she was working as a makeup artist on Blackadder. He reportedly switched makeup artists simply to get the chance to talk to her, a fact that quietly disappointed his co-star Stephen Fry, who had also been interested. They married on February 5, 1990, in New York, with Fry serving as best man. They had two children together, a daughter, Lily, born in 1993, and a son, Benjamin, born in 1995. After 24 years of marriage, they separated in 2014 and divorced the following year. Rowan had begun a relationship with actress Louise Ford, 27 years his junior. The couple had a daughter, Isla, in December 2017, making Rowan a father again at 62. One extraordinary and little-discussed episode occurred in March 2001, when Rowan was flying with his family in Kenya, and their pilot suddenly fainted mid-flight. With no flying experience whatsoever, Rowan grabbed the controls and kept the aircraft steady until the pilot regained consciousness and safely landed the plane in Nairobi. It was a moment that revealed something those who only knew Mr. Bean would never have expected. In a genuine crisis, the man was calm, decisive, and capable. On January 6, 2025, Rowan Atkinson turned 70. Over more than 4 decades, he collected 12 major awards from 18 nominations, including BAFTAs, a Laurence Olivier Award, and an International Emmy. The official Mr. Bean YouTube channel had surpassed 12 billion views and 35 million subscribers by late 2024, generating millions of views every single day from audiences across Tokyo, Mumbai, Sao Paulo, and everywhere in between. Comedy schools now teach something called the Atkinson Method. People have begun calling him the 21st century Charlie Chaplin, the boy who could not speak without stuttering, who was mocked as an alien, who nearly quit and went back to engineering. That boy became one of the most universally beloved comedians the world has ever produced. And perhaps the most remarkable thing about Rowan Atkinson is that, despite all of it, he has never quite believed it himself.